Good morning, and finally, I hope this time it works. Sorry for the backline. I just only spot that the phone works. Anyways, I can't promise it'll work properly, but I hope it does. Welcome to Morning Coffee with Marcaida. So, one of the things I always talk about, the experiences I go through, was a fun, exciting story with my teachers. And one of my teachers that I really enjoyed, I never had a teacher that was in the same area that I lived in. And I always had to travel everywhere to try to find the right teacher. And one of the teachers I finally found lived 6 hours away from me. But not only that, the challenge was that he didn't really give me a chance to, he didn't really want to teach what I was seeking for. He was famous for it. He was the first generation. He had a great name. And when I called him and saying, "Hi, I'd really like to learn from you this particular system," he told me, "I don't teach that art anymore. I don't even teach that system. I have a different job, and what I teach now is related to that." But I begged him to teach me. And he goes, "Well, you know what? This is what I'll charge," thinking that I'd say, "Ooh, that's a lot of money, but you know what? I'll accept that. It's worth it to me." And the next thing that he tells me is, "Fine, this is where I live." And I'm like, "That's far." It was 6-hour drive one way. But you know what? Let's try it out. So I did make the drive 6 hours all the way, and I met with him, and I trained for 2 hours, and I loved it. And I go, "This is what I'm looking for." And he's like, "You drove 6 hours to learn this. You're paying me this amount of money, and you want to continue?" I go, "Yes." "That's crazy." I go, "Well, I'm going to do it." So he tells me, "Well, you know what? Why not? If we're going to do this, we're going to do this, right?" So he goes, "I'll make that commitment. As long as you're crazy enough to do that, I'm crazy enough to teach you." And I loved it. It was so good about it. So 2 years later, one day he finally comes, "Okay, so now that he really thought that I wouldn't continue on and I'd be crazy enough to do that. But 2 years later, he finally closes the last page and he goes, "We're done." I had grown so accustomed to traveling on those days, because remember, at this time I was single. I was working nights in the hospital. I'd dedicate a day to travel because it's a 14-hour day. But it was worth it. And finally, I got accustomed to learning that way, and I totally enjoyed it. When he closed the last page, it was interesting because he told me, "We're done." And I go, "Well, I want to learn some more. I'm not done. I want to learn more." He goes, "Doug, you've been coming here for 2 years, making all these traveling, it was ridiculous. But," he goes, "one thing I noticed, I know I'm not the only teacher you were learning from, and I know that you've amassed so much information about what I was teaching you." He goes, "You keep on coming back asking for more. It's like you're on this thing to find the Holy Grail. Let me tell you something, Doug. The Grail is the journey. There is no Holy Grail. It's a journey." He goes, "How much of everything that I have shown you have you mastered in 2 years? I know you haven't mastered it because I've seen your skills. How much of the other things you've learned from your other teachers have you mastered?" He goes, "Go home. Master what I've taught you. There is nothing left to learn." It goes, "No, I always want to be a student. Always a student." He goes, "You can't always be a student. After a while, you got to get up and get a job. Stop hiding in school. Sometimes you end up with this paralysis through overanalysis. We think so much about things. This is all I want to do." He goes, "No, put it in application. It's not about just what you've learned. It's also about what you've retained. It's also not just about knowing, it's about understanding to get a better retention of what you're learning." So in the end, to upgrade yourself or think about getting better about what you're doing, sometimes you just have to stop hiding with trying to learn more, and really sit back and think about the things that you already know and understand them better. Think about the skills that you already know and master them. Stop trying to get more and more and more and more, because before you know it, you keep on learning, but you've never really understood, and you keep on thinking that you got to know more, when in fact, you probably have more information than you'll ever use in your life. So start using that. Stop trying to be a student and hiding in being a student. Instead, go get a job and start applying what you know. Well, anyways, that's my thought for the day. It's one of those things that it's like, I want to keep learning or going to college so that I'll have a great job. Sir, you've been in college for 20 years. I think you got to get out and get a job. Or it's saying, I want to earn a 7-figure, amount. Well, it's not about making 7 figures if you don't even get to keep any of the money because you upgraded your life and you're spending so much of it. It's not about how much you earn, it's how much you're able to keep. So in the same token, it's not just about knowing everything, it's what you retain and what you understand of the things that you know. By the way, I'd like to say thank you to Jason Knight over here. This is one of the fire-roasted ceramic cups he sent me. It's kind of an interesting design, but that's from Jason Knight. I'd like to say thanks, buddy. I've got it here with me. I'm using it today. It's by Molly Walter. So thanks again. Hope you guys can enjoy it. Take care. Have a great day.